While I wait for all of you to get here, I thought about having a topic this evening. And I'll tell you what's on my mind lately. I don't know if it's an interesting topic or not. And I'll probably wait until Palmetto Paratrooper gets here. Corn Pop's in. How you doing, Corn Pop? You're a bad man, Corn Pop. Hey, Corn Pop. Yeah, you're the first one here. I'm just getting the fire going. I haven't even lit the cigar yet. Oh, we got 3 other people here. So here's what I'm interested in this evening. Ryan's here. How you doing, Ryan? As some of you know, let me like this. Hey, Patrick. Patrick, I need some tips on how to put up with the cold. It's going to be 32 tonight. Shalom, Landon. Tim Pack's here. I mean, what do you do in 30-degree weather? Matches don't work. And y'all, you hear that roaring fire we got going? I bet it's already below 40 degrees. I can't handle it. It's too cold. Anywho. So as many of you know, you're all going to say something interesting in a minute to completely change my mind about the topic. I'd like to thank whoever hit those thumbs ups already. Oh, Patrick's got a cold. Victor's here with -30. Victor, get out, brother. Just run. Just don't even slow down. No one's gonna blame you. Just book it. Just -30. My ass. Oh, I think it's gonna get down to 32 tonight. Tonight might be one of the. We got some high 20s in the forecast. So I don't think tonight's one of those, but it might be. I might get my beautiful bride to look up the weather report here in a minute. Tell us how low it's supposed to get. But yeah, it's. But I got my wood stove going. I'm going to be nice and toasty. It's 0 presently where I am. That's -20 Celsius. That ain't right, man. I'm sorry. That ain't okay. That is not okay. -30 and -20. Oh, and what was the highs there? I mean, that's the other question. What's the temperature swing? The coldest I've ever been in my life was in I think it was the high 50s, low 60s. But we were in the desert, and it'd been up in the 120s that day, and it was just hello, and -17 in Ontario. I don't know what to say. I'll never admit any man's a better man than me, but you men come close. You're almost going to get that admission. Negative anything. There's a reason why it's negative. Because it's a negative from this white boy. No. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about tonight, I'm going to try to make this. First off, y'all are going to say something that's interesting, and we're going to get off on a tangent. So if this is boring, don't leave right away, because it probably is boring to most of you. We won't be on it long. Y'all get me distracted. Trash Canistan in 2007. -80 in northern Quebec. Whew. Well, no, but I heard you guys have terrible mosquitoes in the summer. Or at least maybe that's Alaska. I thought I'd always heard the mosquitoes were just ferocious. As many of you know, uh, I I follow a little subset of Christianity known as Torah keeping, Torah keeping Christians. And most of you been, you kind of know what it is. You know about Pastor Fox and TJ, and quite a few of you probably are Torah keepers yourselves. And I've been keeping Torah for maybe close to 10 years now. That's a wild random guess though. True Blue Alaska, yeah. Like the Ebonites, something similar. Yeah, there was someone, the Ebionites or something. There's someone that Luke that did it in ancient times, and if you know anything about Torah keepers, we're a fractious bunch. It's kind of a newer movement uh, this time around. I mean, it's come up before, and it was an early form of the faith, obviously, since all of the original Christians were Jews. And there's always these disputes between Torah keepers and non-Torah keepers. It has been from the beginning. Uh, a lot of the Book of Acts is. I have a Smith and Wesson M&P in 45. How rare is it really? I didn't know. I didn't know that those were rare. Uh, we call it black fly season, May, June. It's god awful. they, they have it in Ontario too. Oh. Yeah, I guess your flying insects have like 6 weeks where they can survive, so they have to get it all done at once, huh? How about the Samaritan Pentateuch? I am not familiar with the Samaritan Pentateuch. Luke, you'll have to tell me more about that. Anyway, we're a fractious bunch. Anyone who wants to be a Torah keeper is probably already got a defiance disorder diagnosis. You're probably already someone who just likes to fight anybody and everybody for any reason. And you probably just, it's what's called an iconoclast. You just got to be different to be different. So we're already a little hard to get along with. And we all disagree with each other. We all have different viewpoints. But thought leaders have emerged. Pastor Fox is obviously one, an early one. TJ over at Bear Independent is also one. There's another. Many of you are familiar with Pete Rambo. Pastor Dowell over there at Straightway is his own little flavor. There's a bunch of different little flavors. The kind of the biggest well-known mainstream guy is a guy named Jonathan Kahn, who isn't really. Anyway, I could spend hours telling you about the different flavors of Torah keepers. But there's a few main branches, and this isn't crazy important for what we're going to talk about, but it's a little important. So I'm just going to touch on it real quick. And these is my words. You can grab that axe. All right, I got it. Tim said that he told Pastor Fox that he wasn't a fan of Coles last time I saw him. Uh, yeah, we're going to talk about this, damn it. One branch is the Messianic, known as Messianic Jews, and they're actually usually not Jews, although some of them are. Jonathan Kahn falls into this category. They're usually like Assemblies of God style Christians who really like the colors blue and red and a few Hebrew phrases, and they'll probably celebrate Hanukkah in Purim. Uh, and that's pretty much just it. Then there's like the hardcore guys. The different flavors of Hebrew Israelite, they're Torah keepers. So like the Black Hebrew Israelites are a flavor of Torah keeper. There's actually the original Israelite, a modern Israelite movement was actually British Israelism. You're just grabbing my father. And then there's a flavor of called American Israelism. And anyway, I'm just a Torah keeper. Don't make too big a deal out of the lost tribe stuff. I don't, think I'm a, a, a true physical Israelite. Although that also gets it's really weird. It's really complicated. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun arguing with each other. And hey, Mark, how you doing, brother? We bashed on Catholics a few weeks ago, Mark. We're going to bash on Torah keepers tonight. Uh, anyway, and because I am as bad about any of this as any of my Torah brethren, I also love to fight and always have to be right and always have to be different. And okay, good. Uh, anyway, so just skip all that. Fast forward. All that might come back relevant here in a minute. We've got some things we really focus in on the Torah community, right? One of them is do not as the pagans do. Don't be like the pagans. And this is a theme we come back to time and time and time and time and time and time again, right? And pagan to a Torah keeper is pretty much a swear word. It's an epithet. It's damnation unto itself. You don't have to do any more explanation. All as you do is say that's pagan, and the debate's over. It's like, okay, well, yeah, that's something evil, and it's something we can't have anything to do with. You bashed Catholics. How do you see Eastern Orthodox? Oh, don't. Okay, Patrick. Wait, well, let's circle back around to that. I don't want to start. I want to beat on my guys for a minute. I don't want to beat on other people for a while. Uh, I'll bash everybody. Everybody's wrong. Everyone's crazy except me. Uh, I have a joke I like to tell to people who I know I don't have to explain it to because it's mildly blasphemous. Where I like to say there's only ever been two perfect men in the world, and I try to be humble about it. It's not funny. It's a little funny. All right, there's only two perfect men in the world, and I try not to brag too much about it. Uh, uh, that's always bothered me a little bit. It's subtle funny, yeah. Because pagans do all sorts of things we have to do, like breathe. Pagans breathe. So like, yeah, and it gets a little silly sometimes in the Torah community. I was really waiting for Palmetto Paratrooper to get here, or maybe even Caddy Wampus, because Caddy Wampus will go toe to toe with me. I mean, Palmetto will too, but Caddy Wampus really likes to get the knives out and go for the jugular, which I admire. I mean, I like that. That's a compliment for coming from me. And so, like Christmas is a really big deal to Torah people. It's pagan. We can't worship God, our God as the pagans do. And there's this verse, do not as the pagans do. Anyway, it's a phrase, and we always throw it out there, and it's this little bumper sticker catchphrase. Well, like I said, I don't necessarily think it means what everyone thinks it means, especially when it comes to Christmas. I've never in my life met a pagan who celebrated the birth of Christ. So I don't really think Christmas is something the pagans would do, but a lot of Torah keepers do. To the extent where, actually, Luke, I can absolutely tell you wholeheartedly at this point that Christmas is not pagan. I have become convinced now. We don't celebrate Christmas. We haven't celebrated Christmas since we started keeping Torah, so we could be in fellowship with Torah keepers because it's so important to Torah keepers that you just couldn't fellowship with them. You'd either have to lie about it or you would have to be disfellowshipped, and we weren't going to lie, and I didn't want to be disfellowshipped. Uh, but anywho, so I moderate a couple of online communities that are focused around not necessarily Torah keeping but patriarchy, and there's a lot of Torah keepers involved with patriarchy. Okay, Oh, the tree is hard to justify. Uh, I don't think so. Let me say this. That's coming at it maybe from the wrong direction. We don't have to justify the tree. We have to uh, we have to indict the tree. We have to show where the tree is pagan. No one's ever been able to show me that the tree is pagan. But hold on a second. Hold on a second. Before we even get that far, you got to hear what I just found out recently. So anyway, so I moderate these couple of these. It's one online community, two different places. Oh, Nick over at Homegrown Liberty just texted me. So this Christmas thing flared up again, and of course it's this big huge fight. Everyone's throwing hand grenades, everyone's damning everybody else. No one. It just gets stupid. You know how Christians are when we decide to fight with each other. We're vicious animals. So I got ready to wade in and start doing my moderating job. And I thought, all right, before I do, let me just go check all the scriptures and make sure I'm in, I got my head on straight for this thing. And so I go to look up the verse about do not as the pagans do. And I can't find it. I know it's there. I know it's there. Right? I mean, that's the verse. It's the phrase. It's the paraphrase, the phrase we throw around. And I went to find it, and I couldn't find it. And I was getting a little uppity with myself because I know it's there. I'd forgotten that I have recently, in the last few years, started using the NASB 95 for my study Bible, and then I still use my King James for the public reading that I get to do. And so I was doing this study in the New American Standard Bible, the 1995 edition, and I couldn't find it. And I started going, huh? What? And so I get to looking. Damn it. Every time. Men, you want to hear some bullshit? I hope there's some Torah keepers in the chat. Torah keepers, we have us a problem. Because there ain't really a word in the Bible for pagan. Gonna come as a little bit of a shock for all of you, I know. Torah keepers and non-Torah keepers. So I finally found the verses I was looking for. It's in a couple different places. And it doesn't say, do not as the pagans do. It says, do not as the nations do. The Greek word is actually ethnos. You might recognize it as, being a root word for the ethnic people. Do not as the people do. But here's the thing about that word people. I know what you're saying. Okay, so it's not pagan, but it's the same thing. It ain't even close to the same thing, and here's why. Because that word gets used to describe Israel a number of times. Most importantly, when God goes to Abram and tells him he's going to change his name to Abraham and that he's going to make him the father of many pagans. Yeah, no. It's ethnos. He says, I'm going to make you the father of many people. But it's the same word, ethnos, that in other passages that we will translate as pagan. Why do we translate it as pagan in other passages and not in that passage? I don't know. Now, I know this is boring. I know this is not interesting. But men, especially if you're a Torah keeper in the chat right now, that's a problem. And here's the problem. We throw that phrase, Do not as the pagans do. We throw it around like a hand grenade. And we accuse everyone around us of being unrighteous people because they do what pagans do. However, if we apply that word the way it is sometimes applied in the Torah, when Abraham receives the prophecy, the prophesied blessing of the Israelite people, they are described with that same word. So that word cannot have a negative connotation. That word has to have a neutral connotation. Ethnos, the nations, the people, cannot be intrinsically negative. Now, what really, really, really pissed me off, and it pissed me off at myself, and it pissed me off at all of us, is that I found this in 2 minutes sitting on the toilet prior to wading into an internet debate. Why? Why? With all the really, 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 really smart men in this movement, with all the dedicated, sincere, true believing men who are absolutely 100% sold out to the idea of reworking our faith, stripping it down from all the added on bullshit and getting it back to its bare essentials that are required by our Creator, have none of us caught at this before. Why are we running around maligning the patriarchs? Abraham was going to be blessed with being the father of many pagans. No, many ethnos, many people. All right. Pagan is not an indictment. Pagan, as far as I can tell, now you men, yes, some of y'all, you got to have a lot of politics and proddy sex. Oh, Mark's having a moment. Poor Mark took a lot of heat a few weeks ago when we were beating on the Catholics. Oh, you gotta let him have this one. Hold on a second. Now, I haven't finished this study yet. So there's still more for me to look at. That word ethnos gets used over almost 600 times, if I remember correctly, as far as I looked. So, I mean, this would be the work, of a long time going forward. I go to my grave because everything else is salad dressing. It's all about the cross. That is true. That is true, but he told us all the rest of it for a reason. Okay. So, if pagan isn't even a word that we can really translate out of Scripture, and I only use the Greek. I guess our Patrick is in the chat. He asked about the Eastern Orthodox, so he'll like this part. I don't believe that. I believe very, very strongly that God broke the link between His word and Hebrew on purpose. We got us a sovereign citizen in the chat. I love sovereign citizens. Oh, it's Anita. Anita of the Guns here. Friendly reminder, Social Security numbers as well as drinking and insurance and seatbelts are optional. Keep your hands and feet inside the carpet. Maybe we'll get to the sovereign citizen thing here in a little while, Anita. I am deeply sympathetic to the sovereign citizens. I just don't think they're gonna win that way. Where was I? I got distracted. Okay, so this isn't even a word that we can use. We can't accuse people of being pagan because that's not a sin in the Bible. Being pagan is not a. This is what I realized. No, well, I'm sorry. All of this is getting to my actual realization. Oh, the Eastern Orthodox. Vulgar display of truth is here. Anita owes me a silver round it to go out. OPSEC, Anita. Oh no, I put that out there. I'm sorry, Anita. That's right. You're right. I put that out there. The Toccoa Coin Shop is the coin shop that's nearest to, like the general geographic area I live in. It's the only, actually, a new one just opened in a town farther west that I might go check out. But between, say, Gainesville, Georgia, and Anderson, South Carolina, the only coin shop I'm aware of that I've been able to find in the area is that one up there in Toccoa. So, or over there in Toccoa. Around there in Toccoa. Anyway. And then I realized, what the hell are we doing? Provider Bones is here. And then I remembered, what the hell are we doing? Harold's here. We're supposed to be Torah keepers. Another one of our bumper sticker slogans that we always grab onto and lob around like a hand grenade is that we neither add to or take away from God's law. That we, I wonder if DR there is cool. DR. Doctor? You talk about the doctor at Toccoa Coin? There actually is a doctor at the Toccoa Coin Shop. And he is cool. All right, but what we have done is add a sin of paganism. Go find me the sin of paganism. There isn't one. Oh, I looked. There is a sin of idolatry. Okay? What we have substituted in for God's sin of idolatry is this charge of paganism, which is not a charge God ever makes. There is no sin of paganism. There is no penalty for paganism. There's no prescribed anything. There is the sin of idolatry, which is worshiping a God other than Yahweh. And the peoples at times would engage in idolatry frequently. But there was other things the peoples got accused of doing, including bestiality and incest. Okay, so when the peoples are being excoriated and when we're told to not be like the peoples, we're then told the sins. This is everywhere. This is all the ones I've checked so far. Now, I said there's 600 of them in there. I haven't checked them all, but I started with the big ones that I recognize that I've heard people reference. And so far, all the ones I've found are tied to specific sins. Yeah, Tim, like I said, I'm using NASB 95, and I'm going back to the Greek. It's dangerous going back to the Greek. You can get yourself in trouble, but if you're careful, it can be useful sometimes. And this is one of those times when I think it paid off in spades for me. So why are we committing Eve's sin? Remember, Eve's sin, in my opinion, her first sin was not eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Her first sin, that's the sin. When Adam ate of the fruit, that's the sin that tainted everyone with sin. No one could be. There could never be a sin-free person after that, and so that's when universal sin. That's something else Cattywampus hates. Enters the world, but the first sin we get told about is Eve's sin, where the snake comes to Eve and says, "Eat of the fruit," and Eve says, "Oh no, the Lord our God told us that we couldn't even touch the fruit, and that's a lie. God didn't tell her that. She added that sin." Now, it's a really good principle not to touch the fruit, because if you don't touch the fruit, you won't end up eating the fruit, right? Impossible to eat the fruit if you don't touch the fruit. But God's words, what God said was do not eat of the fruit. And theoretically, you could have had a damn fruit fight with the shit and not violated the command. So when you substituting your words for God's words, you're elevating yourself to the level of God. And what does God say there? He says, look, now they're gonna, try to be like us. They, the knowledge of good and evil. The ability to declare sin, the power to declare sin is God and God's alone. No one else gets to do that. Uh, Only him. So when we try to declare sins, when we try to manufacture sins, uh, we we recreate Eve's first sin. We elevate our words up to the level of God's words, and this is an egregious, egregious error, and it always ends badly. So this charge of paganism, this word we used to throw around to indict things and ultimately people, because I'm sorry, Torah keepers, when we do this, we do it so that we can rain invective and judgment and vitriol down on non-Torah keepers. I have seen it now for a decade. I have seen the sneering and the eye rolling and the mean girl snit fits from otherwise manly masculine men, uh, who suddenly start acting like a Lindsay Lohan movie because some other flavor of Christian celebrates Christmas. It's like them and their paganism. Like that's bullshit. That is an arrogance. It's a level of arrogance and judgmentalism on our part, true judgmentalism, not what the world calls judgmentalism. But we have substituted our judgments for God, and we have maligned our brothers. Even if we disagree with their theology, we have maligned them. I did it again. Damn it. By damning them with a sin that God does not list for us. Okay, the only way your Christmas tree is pagan is if you worship the Christmas tree as a deity. If you pray to the Christmas tree, uh, it can't be pagan just because sometime thousands of years ago that someone that we knew nothing about decorated a tree and that man happened to be pagan. You have to take the tree and worship the tree in order for the tree to be a pagan symbol. If you're not worshiping the tree, then it's not a pagan tree. Now, the devil's always in the details. And sure, if you say to yourself, this is a pagan tree and I don't care, and you bring it into the house thinking that it's pagan and you don't care, then you might be guilty of something. I don't know what. But the sin is the sin of idolatry, the sin of worshiping idols. Uh, and it is not the sin of doing something that a pagan one time did that somehow looks similar to the thing you're doing now. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Now, do I think there's a lot of things wrong with Christmas? Absolutely. Absolutely. Christmas has gone off the damn rails. Uh, I pray to the flag. What? Jacques, I honestly don't know anyone who prays to the flag, brother. Okay, so Tim asks, isn't the argument do not the traditions of men, but do not the traditions of men, but do the holy days, not the holidays. Okay, so Tim, I would need to see that argument laid out to me in scripture. I think I know the one you might be going to, but that one doesn't work. It says it's somewhere in like Isaiah or Ezekiel or one of those. One of the prophets is damning the religious elite in I believe Judah of the time, and he says something about your holy days do I detest, your Sabbaths and your new moons. He's actually referring to their keeping of God's uh, holy days because they're keeping them unrighteously. They weren't keeping their own holy days. They were keeping God's holy days unrighteously. Uh, so I think where we get in really big trouble is actually Easter. I don't think God gives a rat's ass about Christmas. He doesn't care if we throw parties. He doesn't care if we have, we schedule hundreds of years in advance specific times to celebrate the birth of Christ. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about parties. He doesn't care about tinsel. He doesn't care about lights. He loves all that stuff. I think God loves joy. I think God loves laughter. I think all of the things about Christmas that are important, he likes. I don't think he cares at all about Christmas one way or the other. If we do it right, fantastic. If we don't do it at all, he don't care. Now, obviously, I think if you're a Catholic or one of those Christian denominations that does ascribe some sort of religious compulsion around Christmas, uh, you would probably disagree with that. My fire is out. And if I don't keep a fire going, this is going to be a short live stream. You might disagree with that. And you're just going to have to accept that I don't. I am sola scriptura. Our Catholic and Orthodox brethren are deeply skeptical of sola scriptura. And they are never going to accept that as a valid argument. But where we get in trouble, especially in the English-speaking world, is with Easter. Because the Passover is a commanded feast. And it's actually commanded in Egypt to be a covenant for all time. Now, you can still make the case that it only applies to Israel. The problem for me with Easter, especially in the English-speaking world, is that it is not. We can talk about all the alleged pagan roots of Christmas, and they're all fake. I haven't found one of them that pans out yet. They're all trolls done by atheists who are just trying to discredit Christianity in general. It's all made up. There's not one thing about any of those claims about the pagan roots of Christmas that are true. Of the ones I've heard. Now, maybe there's something I haven't heard. There's a new one out there that's really, really bad. I mean, it's really egregiously stupid. And if you've given it some credibility, I apologize. You just haven't looked into it. And this is about Nimrod. All the shit about Nimrod is just egregiously stupid. But anywho. Hold on a second. Where was I? But more to the point, Easter is named for Ishtar. And this is true. This is not a conspiracy theory. This isn't wild speculation. In the English-speaking world, the name Easter comes straight from Ishtar. And Ishtar, in the Germanic religions, actually did have a feast about that time. And so our approach to Easter in the English-speaking world may in fact be pagan. You're going to have to look into that for yourself. I don't believe in accidental idolatry. And I serve a God who thankfully redeems pagans, or I wouldn't be here. Because remember, the worst pagans in the world were the Anglo-Saxons. Those were some hideous, hideous human beings. That would be most of us. Most of the English-speaking world has some kind of background in the Anglo-Saxons. Some of us very, very strongly rooted in the Anglo-Saxons. This guy. And we were hideous people. we did horrific things. Remember this. The Vikings were the people we left behind because they were too sissy. Now, they came back later and tried to reclaim our title, and they did okay for a few hundred years. But the Anglo-Saxons made them all look stupid. We were hideous pagans. So our God redeems pagans all the time, or we wouldn't be here. I do not believe in accidental idolatry. I don't believe in accidental sin at all. In fact, Scripture tells us where there's no law, no sin is imputed. So I don't buy this idea that you could accidentally find yourself practicing paganism. Come on. And now the cigar goes out. I'm usually the fire king. But it's hard to claim ignorance when your holiday is literally named after the pagan goddess. Now, I say that, and as soon as I say that, I also have to get the caveat that the name Esther is just a version of the name Ishtar. We have a whole book of the Bible named after a pagan fertility goddess. Esther is the Babylonian version of Ishtar, or the English translation of the Babylonian version. So even that is not a cut and dried case. But still, I think we should really, and most other cultures, like in Spanish and Italian and all these, they don't call it Easter. They call it some version of Pesach, which is Passover. But that's why I say in the English-speaking world, we should really be pretty careful about Easter. Okay, so my point to all that little story is that, men, Torah keeping isn't that old. Not this time around at least. This current iteration really got its start in the 90s. It's really kicked off here in the last 10 years. And we already need a reformation. We already have allowed shit to build up around us. We already need to flush out excess garbage we've allowed to attach itself to our faith. This is not okay. And I'll tell you where we're going wrong. I think I know where we're going wrong. You are all so lucky that I'm here to lead you correctly. I am neither a prophet nor the son of the prophet, or a son of the son of a prophet. But I know what's going on. Hey, 10 Tigers, Easter is a Christianized version of Passover. That's what was going on when Christ was crucified, Passover and all that. And so when we celebrate Jesus' resurrection, all of that is all tied up in Passover. So yeah, it is the same holy day, and we should be treating it like the same holy day, in my opinion. Here's where we're getting wrong. We are so enamored with the Torah keeping part, and we're so focused on trying to add back in what was stripped away, that we're stripping away the things that are needed. Hey, Stephen Cooper, how you doing, sir? All right. We need the New Testament. And here's what we do, and a lot of us do it. we're involved in some kind of assembly, or we'll do it on our own, we will read the Torah portion every week. And what the Torah portion is, for those of you who don't know, is a public reading of the first 5 books of the Bible every year. Every year, this is a Jewish custom, Jewish tradition. It has a little bit of basis in Scripture, but not much. And every year they will publicly read the whole first 5 books of the Bible in a continuous loop. And at the end of it, it'll start over back at the beginning. And that's wonderful stuff. I mean, the Old Testament's God's word. We got to study it. Here's the problem. That ends up being 5 to 6 chapters a week. That ends up being the only 5 to 6 chapters a week we read. And we do not read the Gospels. We do not read about the life of Christ. We don't read the Acts of the Apostles. We don't read any of the epistles. We don't even read Psalms or Proverbs. We don't read Isaiah, Ezekiel, Zechariah, Amos, any of that stuff. All of that stuff that even the Jews will tell you is Scripture, we don't read that stuff even, because we read those first 5 books in continuous loop. And we are dying spiritually and intellectually because we are only getting a tiny portion of God's word. Because we're so adamant, we're like, it's us against the world. Everyone hates us. Mark Becker and the Pope are going to come, and no one expects the Spanish Inquisition, and we're all out there looking for the Spanish Inquisition, and we're dying from within. We're losing Jesus. And I have seen this happen multiple times now, where men have gotten so into the Old Testament. These were men who had a faith in Jesus. These were men with a New Testament faith. And they end up, through the same process every time so far, denying Christ and converting to straight Judaism. Meanwhile, we're reading these lists. I read it, I think it was last week or the week before. It was my turn to read. And it was my turn to read the genealogies of the people of Edom, the Edomites. And it's the whole chapter listing out the genealogies of Edom. Now, that's important because it's in there. I don't know why it's important, but it is important because it is in there. But we read the genealogies of the Edomites once a year, and we don't even read so much as the Passion of Christ. Hey, Patrick, we appreciate you. Thank you for stopping in. Sorry we didn't get to beat up on the Orthodox tonight. We will get around to you guys soon, because I have my issues with the Orthodox too. More so now after I saw this Adrian Wilson, or whatever the hell his name is, that animal. Ugh. Anywho. Okay, why are we reading the genealogies of the Edomites once a year, religiously, literally, without fail, and we never once corporately, I know, Patrick, I think I picked up on that. I think you've said that before too. We never once corporately read the Passion of the Messiah. We don't read the birth of the Messiah, the Passion. We don't read the Sermon on the Mount. I've been in a Torah assembly for 3 years now. We had a home church prior to that. I say a home church. It was a family Bible study that we were trying to make a home church. Didn't work. I've been in this assembly. We're in the 3rd cycle now. We've never once read the Sermon on the Mount. Now tell me, how do you have a faith in the modern era? How do you keep your faith in Jesus if you never crack the New Testament? And I know what everyone tells me is, well, you can do that on your own time. Well, bullshit. Bullshit. Why is our corporate worship? Our corporate worship is very, very important. And why does it never once brush up against the Messiah? It doesn't. Most of us never deal with the New Testament at all. in a corporate manner. And be honest, most of us don't have very much of a private study life. And you might be that exception. You might be that man who does, but you are the exception, and you're probably not as much an exception as you think you are. So no, we have a problem in the Torah community. We have a big problem in the Torah community. And in the past, I have been deeply hopeful for the impact we were going to have on the culture. I thought we had a lot of answers to the masculinity problem. I thought we had a lot of answers for young men. I thought we had a lot of answers. And what I'm beginning to fear is that we have already been derailed. We've already lost. Now, I'm sure that there are vibrant, correct Torah communities out there that I'm not aware of. I don't know everybody or everything. I'm relatively plugged in, but I'm not ubiquitous by any stretch of the imagination. So if you are one of those rare people involved in one of those rare groups, you're very fortunate, and I would like to know more about you. But for the rest of us, we got to figure out what the hell we're doing here. Because listen, man, I love our Jewish brothers. I love the Old Testament. I love the Torah. But if the book ends at Malachi, it's dead. I'm sorry, that's a dead religion. If there's no Messiah, if the Messiah hasn't come, then Yahweh has not been heard from in over 2,500 years. And he has left all of us alone, incapable of redemption for 2,500 years. That is a dead religion. All right? Judaism, the Judaism of today, as much as I love our Jewish brethren and as much as I'll support them to the hilt, because God still blesses them for whatever reason. I mean, I know why. I didn't say whatever reason, but for reasons of his own, that religion is not even the religion of the Old Testament. I want to be careful here. If the New Testament's not added onto the Old, then the Old is dead. It's not true. That God either sent the Messiah and he sent the disciples and the apostles, or he doesn't exist. And there's no other option there for me. And so he is not going to allow us to ignore that aspect of who he is or what he's told us. We have to get back. We can't give away. Someone was asking what's a Torah keeper? What's a Torah keeper? And that might have been Patrick who had to leave. I grew up Assemblies of God mostly. For the most part, Assemblies of God. Good people. You speak of the Talmud. No. The Talmud, yeah, well, I'm sorry, modern Judaism, yes. So modern Judaism is Talmudic Judaism, and the Talmud is horseshit. There's parts of it that are not horseshit. The vast majority of it is horseshit, just bullshit garbage. Has like no more truth in it than any other self-help book, and less than some. Sorry, here we go again. I finally got my wood stove fire going, and now I got to get my cigar going again, and maybe then we can get down to brass tacks. So we have to stop reading the Torah portion on the rabbinical schedule. That is not sufficient. Good people, Jesse. I don't have any more complaints against them than anyone else, but it was not effective religious system for me. I did not thrive in that mode of worship. So we have got to stop following the teachings of rabbis. We are by the big ladder. No. If the Sabbath was made for man, man not for the Sabbath, can't we apply that to the practice of the Torah as followers of Christ? Just a thought. No. So that passage gets deeply misunderstood. The fact that the Sabbath was made for the man does not mean that man gets to do whatever the hell he wants on the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for the man because the things we're commanded to do on the Sabbath are good for man. All right? At the foundation of our faith, men, and this is, I'm talking to everybody now, and I try not to, and, well, you know what, no, just screw it. I'm going to speak with authority at the moment, and if you think I'm full of shit, then, chew the fat, spit out the bone. The foundation of our faith is fear God and keep his commands. This is the whole duty of man. This is my life verse. As much as I think that phrase is stupid, I say it ironically. This is the last verse of the book of Ecclesiastes. I believe it's Ecclesiastes 12:16, but it might be like 12:13 or something. Someone can check me on that. But the paraphrase of it is, after the whole book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon says, so what is the conclusion of the thing? When all is said and done, fear God and keep his commands, for this is the whole duty of man. So if fem cells. Nice, Wolf Slumbers. What's up, fem cells? And those of you who don't know, fem cells are women who refuse to have relations with men whatsoever until that they are given full personhood rights, they claim. Fam, not so, fam cell. Then I don't know what a fam cell is, and I apologize for laughing at a joke I didn't get. But I do think fem cells would have been funny. So when God says that the Sabbath's made for the man, not man for the Sabbath, what he's saying is that it's good for man to keep the Sabbath. It's not good for man to do what he wants on the Sabbath. Except you can do what you want on the Sabbath within the dictates of the day. So I believe that passage gets deeply misunderstood. It doesn't mean do whatever the hell you want. It means do what God wants, because that's what's good for you. And then within what God said, Wolf's thinking about going to church tomorrow. Which church? Within what God says, there is a ton of freedom, by the way. I mean, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. When you look at the actual Sabbath restrictions, they're not that onerous. In fact, they're very, very nice. They work very much to your advantage. The only downside to the Sabbath that I've found so far is you can't go to yard sales. Because all the good yard sales are on Saturday. Oh, well. What are you going to do, right? Damn, where was I going? Oh, Torah reform. Got to get a torch. You know what I got to do, Stephen, is I've got to hydrate these things. I just leave them on the shelf, and so they dry out, especially in the winter when I got the wood stove running in there and everything dries out. This freaking thing is it's a piece of wood. It's not a cigar. One day I got to break down and buy a humidor. But that would involve forethought and spending money, and who wants to do that, right? I mean, I like spending money. I just don't like thinking ahead about it. I'd rather spend money on a whim in the moment. And Yeah, I got to get a mini humidor, Steven. Oh, who was it? Who was? I was supposed to check my email. Someone was going to email me something. I need to do that. Was that vulgar? I think that was vulgar display of truth. Uh, no, I don't have a PO box. I got to do it at one day. Uh, what do I think about blue laws? I like blue laws. I like blue laws as long as they don't carry like a spiritual component. You know, as long as the blue law says, "Hey, this is society's, this is a societal standard in order to prioritize religious life." Once the government starts saying this is the proper way to worship God, then I have a very big problem. Uh, but if you know, like this used to be a dry county, and which I actually didn't mind, even though I don't have anything wrong with alcohol. And then for years there were no sales on no alcohol sales on Sunday. There's there's nothing in scripture about that. You knew everyone went on Sunday. Uh, TJ quit cigars? I didn't know this. Huh. I wonder why. That man just looks right with a cigar. I mean, I've smoked cigars with TJ. TJ's been very, very kind to me. And he's invited me out to spend some time out there with him and his folks. And I got to sit around and smoke cigars with TJ and his men. And he looks right with a cigar. It just fits. Um, Wait, so yeah, I kind of like blue laws a little bit, as long as they're not the government saying this is the right way to worship God. It's just the government saying we have, as a society, just picked a way to signify our, our allegiance to a religion, broadly speaking. I don't have anything against them. Uh, Nicotine consumption increases testosterone production. I might have to give up cigars too then, because I've got way too much testosterone, man. I mean, I've got it coming out of my ears. It's scary sometimes. I see myself in the mirror and I'll try to pick a fight with myself. It's not good. Got a baby due in a next couple of weeks. Uh, Around the middle of January, the next baby's due, and yeah, this might be our last one. It's just I'm 49, Mariah's 42, I think. I think she turns 43 this year. It's just we're coming up to the end of that phase of our life, and it's been such a huge part of our identity. Uh, Yeah, we got, like I said, this might be the last one. You never say never. You never know what God's gonna do. He's given us 16, so why wouldn't he give us 17, right? But you got to assume we're close to the end of the fertile youth. Thank you, Wolf. Of the fertile years of our lives, and yeah, it's bittersweet. I'm not ready. How do I say this? If I never had another child, I would not obviously feel a lack. Clearly, I have been blessed beyond measure. At the same time, it's like what they allegedly that some journalist asked one of those robber barons back in the last, the 1900s, how much money was enough, and he looked at it. It was a female journalist alleged. I believe it was Nellie Bly was her name. Well, he looked at her and said, "Just a little bit more." How many children are enough? Just one more. And that's how I'm feeling now. I'm like, oh man, this might be my last child. Uh, uh, and the last time my wife's pregnant, and the last time this, and the last time that, and so I've kind of been having a moment, kind of an 8 month long, 9 month. She's in her ninth month now. 9 month long moment this time around. We're trying to just enjoy it and uh, soak it all in. Because it's, yeah, N+1. There you go. Oh, Wolfpack's youngest is 11 and he's 52. So when I'm 52, my youngest will be 2. And fortunately, the grandchildren have started coming. We've got, oh, that's right. I forgot. I went and bought them all silver dimes Friday, and I need to put them all in flips and label them. We're going to give them to them tomorrow. So the grandchildren have started coming in, which is, obviously very, 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 very sweet. And it started, it's going to, it's time to transition. I'm a grandfather now. It's, I have children the same age as my grandchildren. Some of my grandchildren are older than some of my children. And when they get together, you want to treat the grandchildren like grandchildren, but there's still your children there that you have to treat like children, and it is a very different thing. Any man in the chat here who has grandchildren will tell you it's a very, very, very different animal. Grandchildren are not children. But when they're the same age, you can't treat them different because it's not, the kid doesn't understand that, especially not the young ones. Like my youngest daughter right now is almost 3, and then I have a granddaughter who's like the same age as her. They're a few months apart, and when they get together, I want to treat, if I see my granddaughter, my baby daughter is usually around, obviously, and so I want to treat my granddaughter like a granddaughter, but I got a 3-year-old daughter that she doesn't understand why I'm treating this little girl the way I am, So, the silver lining, the sweet side is that I'll be able to start transitioning into that grandfather role now. And I'll pass on the torch and it'll all be good, right? It'll all be wonderful. But always in the moment, in the transition is hard. I'm not going to be the hard ass anymore, and I'm going to be the soft guy now. And that's just weird because hard ass has been my thing. I've been a hard ass now for. It is a really good problem. That's what you call first world problems. But I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and I always had a kind of a leadership role among my brothers. And so I've just always, I've always kind of been in that mode. And now to transition and start letting my kids, come forward and start taking over and receding a little bit to the background. I'm going to hit this good and hard, and it's going to fly across the room, and then I'm not going to have it. It's bittersweet. It is. It's bittersweet thinking about it. And on one hand, I'm really, really excited for the change. Yeah, Stephen, almost all of my children but 3 live nearby. So I've got a daughter in North Carolina. I've got a son in Pennsylvania and a daughter in Texas. But everybody else is within an hour, and most of them are all within 30 minutes. So I'm pretty blessed in that regard. My 2 oldest sons live about 10 minutes away. 2 of my daughters, I've got North Georgia, yeah, Stephen. So yeah, they're all pretty close by. For the most part, I do have a strained relationship with that oldest girl. She's not Florida, Bama. I know exactly where that's at. But when was the last time I was in Mobile? I haven't been in Mobile in a while. But I don't despise Mobile. We were in Mobile. Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, I have to say that I do live in Georgia, so obviously Alabama jokes are some of our favorite jokes, right? Oh, okay. I've driven right past you before. Actually, I used to live in Pensacola when I was a boy. Dad was in the Navy back then, and so he was stationed in Pensacola. I don't remember. I was too young to remember. I would have been, 2, I think. But he was a sea survival instructor at the flight school there in Pensacola. Your dad, Jesse, I guarantee you, your dad wants to be a grandfather. I Being a grandfather is awesome. Everyone born north of I-10 was a Yankee. I got to tell you, sir, there's some woolly boogers born north of I-10. I don't know if I don't know if I'm man enough to walk around telling some of those folks they're Yankees. I could just hear someone saying it in a Cajun accent too. Yeah, I can't do a Cajun accent, but uh, I just hear him like a NASCAR voice. Well, you know, about you were born north out here, they're damn Yankee, thing carpetbagger. You're from up around Birmingham, you yellow bellied Yankee. them Yankees from up north around Huntsville. I guess that makes us Appalachian boys damn near Canadian. God, this thing is, I think it might be fireproof. All right, we lost Wolf. Appreciate you, brother. Do we have any Torah keepers in the chat? Am I the only one? Am I talking to an empty room as far as Torah keepers go? Canuckistanians. Yeah, these days, yeah. Okay, Stephen Cooper's Torah. Yeah, well, we all do. That's all of us, Stephen. I like to play chess. And people sometimes will ask me if I'm any good at chess. And I tell them nobody's good at chess. Everyone's just, less bad. There's people who are less bad than others. And that's the same thing about Torah keeping. Oh, Landon's been keeping Torah for 3 years. No one's good at Torah keeping. There are some people who are less bad at it than others, but we're all pretty bad. Because I'm sorry, you can't keep Torah without the New Testament. You can't. You cannot keep Torah without the New Testament. Jesse's an aspiring Torah keeper, but have to work Saturday. Yeah, so I would go ahead and set the Torah keeping aside for now then, Jesse, because there's a passage that gets wildly misinterpreted many times. but it says, yeah, that if you keep the law, you're responsible to keep all the law. So I don't think Torah keeping is a requirement. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's an option. I think it's a very good option. I would encourage all men to look into it. It's been very, very positive in my life, but it's not a requirement. Acts 15 is the requirement, and if you're not going to be able to keep the Sabbath, then I would set aside anything beyond that Acts 15 until there's a change in that Saturday, because the Sabbath keeping is non-negotiable as far as Torah keeping goes. It's one of the foundations. Now, I don't want to say that. I was going to say something stupid, but I decided not to say it. You're welcome. I don't do that too often. I do think a Sabbath is a very, very, very Provider Bones is blended in faith. I'll have a love for bacon. Well, Jesse, you got to try. Well, I don't know if you can get good beef bacon. If you can keep if you can find good beef bacon, actually, in my opinion, it's way better than pork bacon. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like a steak bacon. It's like a bacon flavored steak. Oh, that's Corporal Veterans in the house. Hello, good evening. Being an hour late seems to be my regular. What time should I be checking so I'm not late? Oh, Lance Corporal Veteran, I don't schedule these, brother. I don't, I'd hate to tell you time, because as soon as I told you a time, then I would do it different. If I could get my act together and be regular and predictable with this thing, I'm pretty sure I could grow it, because you men are so interesting. This is insane. I swear this thing has fire retardant on it. I tried to get going by 9:30, but it can happen anytime between 9 and 10. And then, of course, then there's this, the weeks where I just can't get it done, and so I don't do it. And then if you were looking and I didn't show up, you'd be just like, oh, that asshole told me 9 to 10, and you didn't even show up at all. So I just, if I can give up. No, I enjoy them. I'm not enjoying this one. Wonder, frequently Mariah is listening inside. And if she's listening, baby, bring me out a cigar from one of the, there's 2 bags in there, the black plastic bags. If you're listening, let's see how good a wife she is. Bring me one of the cigars out of one of those bags, please. If she does, we'll throw this one out and we'll start over with because I have a couple of those, one of my sons-in-law bought me some nice cigars. Oh God, someone's got to get me matches. It came in these bags with a humidifier in them, and so I put some cigars in those bags, and I'm hoping they'll humidify. And I might have some that are worth. I thought she was coming this way. I was going to be all proud of her. If I yelled, she'd bring me one too, but. Kids are sleeping. At least they better be. So I'm hoping some of those will get rehydrated and they'll be humidified, and maybe those will be useful. Also, if I didn't talk so damn much and I'd puff on them every once in a while, they'd probably stay going too. But this one is just, like I said, it's just got fire retardant on them. Arturo Fuente, Hemingway short story. Arturo Fuente makes a good cigar. I haven't had many of them, but a really good cigar. My favorite I've ever had is called an Onyx Reserve #4. I don't even know if they still make them anymore. It was supposedly some kind of special tobacco that they may have run out of. I don't know. They were really, really, really good, and they were relatively affordable. But that's back when I was single and I could justify. Actually, I couldn't justify it, but I would justify buying a box of nice cigars every once in a while. Now I buy these $2 seconds and 20 cigar blocks. I don't think she's listening. That's hurtful. Yeah, the Reserve is a darkest cigar too, and this is a darker cigar too. And that's why I get these is they look a little bit like those Onyx Reserves, but I don't have anywhere near the kind of I can tell if I'm smoking a good cigar, but I can't tell you what makes it good. Uh, and I have no way to tell you if it's good going in. It's just every once in a while I'll get to smoke one and I'll be like, oh wow, that's a good cigar. I do know what I like. What? No King Edwards? No, no Swisher Sweets either. I like a cigar with a strong flavor that isn't just bitch slapping you. Sometimes you smoke some of those, then it's just like you're getting punched in the face, and that's no frickin' fun. But I don't like sweet cigars or flavored cigars or weak cigars. There's this happy medium right there in the middle where you feel like you smoked something significant, but it wasn't punching you in the face the whole time. Uh, but it's really just about the process. You're coming out on the porch. You're telling everyone to be quiet, and you leave you alone. You lighting the matches. There's like it's about the journey. It's the process, the ritual. I do have an email, Stephen. It's the Revolting Man at Outlook.com. I'm really bad about checking it. I was supposed to check. Someone was going to send me an email last week. I promised I would check, and I failed to check. I'm going to try to remember to check it tonight or tomorrow. And if just put your screen name in the subject line so I know. Just put Stephen Cooper live stream or something so it triggers. And I don't think you're trying to sell me an extended warranty on my car, because if you're dumb enough to sell me an extended warranty on my car, I would be stupid not to buy it from you. Um, so no one's had anything to say about the drones so far. I thought someone was going to shoot me an email, Stephen. I would enjoy that. I would smoke them on a live, and we would say nice things about you, unless they're crap cigars, in which case we'd make fun of you. But I'd still be grateful because, it's hard for a free cigar to be crap, right? I mean, how bad would it have to be for it to be bad at free? You get what you pay for, right? So yeah, shoot me that email, and I will get back to you. He said, hopefully. I've been thinking about, and y'all men tell me what you think about this. I don't want to add any new platforms. I am overloaded with platforms. I'm on Reddit. I'm on Facebook. I have an X account, but I don't use it. But cut 2 inches off that and light it. All right, I'll tell you what. If it dies this time again, I'll do that. I don't know if I can bring myself to cut 2 inches off, but maybe I'll cut an inch off. But I would like to get a tiny little bit more professional about this thing. Do you guys use any of that stuff? Do you use X? Oh, I'm on Telegram too. Do you use Telegram? Is there a value in any of that to make the community, like, do you even have any interest in a beefed up community? I know there's so many damn communities out there that, uh, if you really wanted to be involved with one, you could be neck deep in it if you wanted. It just seems like our conversations resonate a little bit with some people. Uh, and there's just a value in men communicating with each other, you know? That's what was behind a lot of the revolution, was those committees of correspondence, just the patriots in various places. Yeah, Tim doesn't even use Facebook. I have it, and I don't use it that much either. I've got a Revolting Man Facebook page that I don't check. I don't do anything with. I don't hardly post anything on. Hey, Anarchy TV's television's here. How you doing, sir? Mm-hmm. Well, I have a Patreon too that I don't do anything with. That's sad, because some I have some men signed up on that Patreon, and I don't update it. I don't check it. I don't do anything to it. Yeah, it's just, I feel like I should shut down the Patreon, because that's not fair. There was a time when I thought I was going to try to, you do the whole 9 yards and and have it be a little sideline and everything, and I just don't do it. It would require planning and thought, and I prefer to drift through my life from moment to moment. Oh, it happened. All right. Let's cut the tip off and see if we can't salvage this thing. What do you think? That enough? It was like cutting a log. Let's try again. And my fire's about to burn down. This is a sad, sad state of affairs we got going on here, man. These matches are bullshit. Yeah, I singed my eyebrows last time. I think I did it on camera too. I think we were in the middle of a live stream. Nope. I'm going to use this whole box of matches. It's still not right. Oh, you know what? That's probably true. Someone just said the matches have more moisture than the cigar. And you're right, because the matches have been outside on the porch, and the cigar's been inside in the house. And the house, of course, is dry as a bone. So those matches probably are soggy. All right, now let's see if we can get this wood stove burning. Yeah, there's just way too much of all that stuff. everyone tells me, oh, you got to be on Instagram and you got to be simultaneously live streaming on X. And it's like, gosh, that all sounds like work. You know? I got a cell phone and I just hit live stream. And I don't want a studio and headphones. And then I've got to like have equipment in this dedicated space. And I don't have the time or inclination to mess with all that, I got well, I'm down right now. I'm down to only 8 kids in the house at the moment. But still, I got 8 kids in the damn house. I ain't got no, like, space where I can keep I don't have a computer. I got a little tiny laptop thing that I do email on. No, that I don't do email on, that I'm supposed to do email on. But it was like, it's like $150 brand new. What did Anarchy say? I only do my live streams on a cell phone. Yeah, all this guy, they got their headphones and they got the microphone, and I'm like, dude, that looks like $500 worth of equipment, not counting the computer. No. I need a new chain. My chainsaw broke the other day. Actually, both of my. It's really weird. Damn it, where did it? Both of my chainsaws have broken frames. The motors have run great. Well, not frames. My little saw, I just broke the housing that holds the there's this little plastic clip that's molded into the body that holds the throttle, for lack of a better term. Axle's not the right word. But there's like this rod, the plastic rod that the thumb throttle's hooked on, and the little plastic pincher thing that snaps into broke. Motor runs great. But I don't know if I can keep it running now with that plastic piece broken. And just looking at it, I don't think it can be replaced, or it wouldn't be worth replacing. It looks like I might end up replacing the whole saw because of this little plastic piece that broke. Ooh, ham radio stuff. And then my big saw, the handguard broke for the second time. I don't know if I dropped it on there. And you want to talk about a pain in the ass. Replace a handguard on a chainsaw. That is a pain in the ass. There is a spring on the bottom of that thing that they could probably use on the suspension of a truck. I'm sure there's a tool that will take care of it, but I'm not going to buy the tool because I wasn't planning. The last time I dropped it on top of the handguard and broke it. I'd slid. I was carrying, I was walking down a hill, and it was just in leaves and stuff, and so I slid, and I dropped the saw, and when I went to slide, the saw was running, and the chain wasn't spinning, but the saw was still running. So in my mind, I put my arm out as far as I could and dropped it, and it landed on the handguard and broke. Because I didn't want to hit the ground with a running saw in my hand, right? So I replaced it that time, and then I just noticed the other day that it was cracked again, and I don't remember having dropped it, but who knows? I was sharpening it when I noticed, so I wonder if because you'll hit the brake so the chain is locked in place, and then you'll sharpen a few teeth, and you'll pull the brake back and move it. So I wonder if I just leaned on that too much or something. I don't know. It's very, very disturbing. I think I've got another handguard up there, and if I do, I'll replace it because I ran across a couple of saws with the same body. It's a different motor, but all the other stuff around it is the same. And I think I had three of them. And if I do, I should still have two left. The problem is my shed collapsed. So I have to get underneath the roof somehow and dig around and find them underneath that collapsed shed. All right, whoever said to cut the tip off was right. It's doing a little bit better. Was that Tim? You were right. It's doing better. So yeah, it's a damn it's a hillbilly nightmare out here. Yeah, the spring is just a total pain in the ass. And getting it, it's like anything, getting it off is not impossible. Getting it back on is just, ugh. I still don't remember how I did it. Uh, I guess I'm going to find out, but I'm going to try to limp it through the rest of this season. I'm going to try to get through to the spring because it's mid-December now. I'll burn through January and February and into March a little bit. So I've only got 2.5 months of firewood left, the firewood season. So if I can get it to last through to March, then I can forget about it till September, and then I can get in a panic and have to fix it all at once in a rush. And that's how I like to do things. Now that's when I get things done, is in a panicked rush. Ah, you bastard. Yeah, maybe I had the end. This is sad. This is just sad. Right after I said it was working, it quit working. Oh, well, that's better. Maybe this one will work. Yeah, that looks better than the. Who knows? Clearly not me. I don't know nothing. Okay, well, it sounds like I ran out of steam, man. I'm going to finish this with you, though. So we're going to be here for another 20, 25, 30 minutes. Hell, maybe an hour the way this cigar's been going. But it might not be a rapid fire commentary going forward. Who's got something interesting to talk about? Oh, someone said we were praying to the flag. Who was that? I don't feel like. I guess you could make the argument that the Pledge of Allegiance might possibly be some kind of bad idea. So let's see. I pledge allegiance to the flag. So pledging allegiance to the flag is a little weird. Obviously, we don't want to show allegiance to the symbol. We want to have allegiance for the principles that that symbol represents. So I could see where that pledge isn't maybe a great idea. See, so I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Yeah, now if you were going to pledge allegiance, why wouldn't you pledge it to the, if there was something worth pledging allegiance to that wasn't the principles, why wouldn't it be the nation itself? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Okay, so if you think the republic's worthwhile, I could see that. To which it stands, one nation, under God. Okay, we're good there. That's probably the part we all like right there. indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So why wouldn't we pledge allegiance to liberty and justice? No. Why wouldn't we pledge allegiance to God and the one indivisible nation underneath him that provides liberty and justice for all and is symbolized, that is organized as a republic and symbolized by the flag? That seems like that would be the correct way to go about that. Seems like we got it backwards. Why would we pledge allegiance to a flag? Anybody could be carrying that piece of cloth, as we have well seen, right? I mean, who's carried that piece of cloth for the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now? Anarchy doesn't pledge allegiance to any flag except, yeah. I don't change my mind much about things at this point of the game, but that's a good point. Why are we pledging allegiance to a flag? A flag has nothing. It's a symbol that could symbolize anything. We should be pledging allegiance to God and the principles he wants us to incorporate into our system of government. That's what we should be pledging allegiance to. We are screwed up in this country. I might do a video on that. No more Pledge of Allegiance. I got to think about that. That's kind of a big statement. There's another interesting question there, because obviously anarchy is as a religious man. I think freedom has to have. Hey, listen to me. What did Lance Corporal veteran here say? He said, "I pledge allegiance to one nation under God of these United States of America and the republic for which it stands, for liberty and justice for all." Yeah, it really has to be worded differently than the way we've been doing it. And you see, in the past, I would have been all about, no, the Pledge of Allegiance. We should be saying, children should say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning at school. I'm one of those guys, conservatism is a philosophy of life. It's not a system of government. And I have a strong conservative bent. It's like the things that we've done are the things we should be doing unless there's some reason to change. But the truth of the matter is, so much of what we do these days, we've only been doing since the 20s and 30s. And of course, the things we've been doing since the 20s and 30s are bullshit. That's when there's some people who I think are just absolute villains in our history. And John Dewey, yes, of the Dewey Decimal System, is one of them. I think he is one of the most destructive men in our history that no one knows. We always, the Dewey Decimal System. Oh, he just organized the library books so the cute little elementary school children can go check out their Dr. Seuss and Richard Scarry. But no, that man was evil. He was an evil soul bitch. And he snuck in all kinds of bullshit. It's just the Dewey Decimal System. It's like, they gave him this stupid little thing everyone could focus on so no one recognized what he was doing the rest of the time. He is a communist piece of shit. Frickin' fellow traveling fifth columnist saboteur. He was garbage. But he weren't the only one. Woodrow Wilson should be exhumed from his grave and his bones desecrated, then ground into powder, fed to pigs. The pigs should be slaughtered and their meat fed to other pigs, who are then slaughtered and buried, and then corn grown on that ground, and that corn fed to yet other pigs. And then those pigs should be slaughtered and thrown into the sea. That's what should happen to Woodrow Wilson. That is one of the worst men to ever be called American. He was horrific. So much bullshit and bloodshed and violence and horror and misery have flown from the fruits of that man's sabotage. Vast swaths of the misery of the 20th century can be laid at the foot of the incredibly malignant incompetence of Woodrow Wilson. There are not words bad enough for what I think about Woodrow Wilson. FDR is not as big a villain, in my opinion, as Woodrow Wilson. FDR was just a venally corrupt oligarchical plutocrat. You know, he was just a politician like any other. He was a little bit better at it. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln did a lot that was wrong too, Anarchy. It's impossible, I think, at this point to figure out exactly how much of what he did was malignant and how much of it was just the crises he was facing in the Civil War, because there's no doubt there was a crisis, obviously. And he was so dedicated to the Union that he forgot what we were united for and around. And, you know, obviously we all have to acknowledge that the sin of chattel slavery is one unto death, literally. If, you know, you're a religious man, it says it straight up there that if you're a man stealer, you know, the penalty for man stealing is death, and man stealing is chattel slavery. The slavery advocated in Scripture is not chattel slavery. So, you know, we had it coming. Our forefathers asked for it when they decided to try to own their fellow man. But there is no doubt that much of what is wrong with our country came about in the aftermath of the Civil War and Reconstruction, when half the nation was not allowed to vote. And had you told our forefathers at the time of the ratification of the Constitution that individual states could not secede from the Union, they would have started the Civil War early. They would have started it at that time. There would not have been a Constitution. The older I get, the more I think the Anti-Federalists were right. I think our Constitution is a brilliant document, but everything the Anti-Federalists said about it has come to fruition. They said that what would end up happening is that instead of guaranteeing the liberty of the people, it would get co-opted by the oligarchs, who would turn around and use it as an excuse to oppress the people. And that is exactly what has happened. Nothing about our government is constitutional. Nothing. Our federal government. Nothing about our federal government is constitutional. George Washington would have already saddled up his charger and headed for the hills. Uh-oh, Stephen Cooper had a lady friend call. Dun, dun, dun. Stephen Cooper gonna have him a baby. Yeah. Yeah, the older I get, Anarchy, the more I think the Anti-Federalists were right. I'm not ready to declare it just yet. It could be that the Federalists bought us 250 years to come up with a better system. Yeah, you got some already. But from where I'm sitting, boy, it sure looks like... Yeah, well, why wouldn't he have been, 10 Tigers? It's like, well, if we were gonna... if we were going to throw it all away anyway, why wouldn't he do his best to try to preserve what he had sacrificed so much for and what he'd seen so many men die for? You know, those men, and Washington was there from the beginning to end. Not very many men were. Stephen wouldn't be upset with a monarchy. Yeah, the problem with the monarchy is who's the monarch. No one's made monarchy work well. Of course, no one's made anything work too well. But I feel like, man, there was a period in this nation's history where it did work. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And we didn't protect it. The thing is that the legislature was supposed to be, where the people owned their government. And the legislature was supposed to come together, once a year, sort out all the bullshit, get everything back on track, and then go home for a year. Yeah, I actually do have a block that I've split on. It's just, I need a bigger one. Uh-oh. And I just can't help but feel like we didn't get the House of Representatives right. Something fell down with the House of Representatives. It's like that was supposed to be the main branch of government, and everything else was supposed to just give the House of Representatives a framework to work within and keep it from going off the rails. But the House was supposed to be, in my opinion, the driving force in our government, because that's how the Parliament worked in England, and the House of Representatives was based on the British Parliament, and the Senate was the House of Lords. The popular election of senators was a big one. I think the popular election of the vice president, the vice president used to be elected separate from the president. They didn't run together. The 17th or the 18th, Stephen. I think it was the one right before the women got the vote, whatever that. I think that was the 19th Amendment. And I think the direct election of senators was the one right prior to that. Or maybe prohibition was in between them or something. Anyway, there was a series of really bad amendments. Most of the amendments were bad. Only been a couple of them that were worth anything. Son of a bitch. But yeah, the vice president used to be, 1 to 10 are good. But they weren't really amendments. That was kind of part of the original document, really. But no, the vice president had an important role as a check and balance on the presidency. The vice president was like a member of the Senate. He wasn't really in the administration. A little bit, but he was more. He was like this liaison between the two, but he was more in the Senate than he was in the administration. His connection to the administration was just being the backup for the president. In fact, Washington didn't let John Adams, sit in on cabinet meetings and everything. The Washington really felt like John Adams, as the first vice president, was a member of the Senate. He was not a member of the executive and the administration, even though he tried to have a close relationship with them. And I think when we lost that, when we subsumed the vice president into the presidency and the executive branch, we really lost an important part of what kept our government uh, functioning. And see, that makes more sense too with the vice president being able to certify the vote or not. Because if the vice president's a member of the administration, I agree 100%, he shouldn't have the ability to certify the vote or refuse to certify the vote. However, if he's a member of the Senate, then it makes perfect sense that he would be able to say, no, this vote, I can't certify this vote. And again, be a powerful check and balance on the executive rather than being a member of the executive. All that to say that yes, I think Mike Pence did have the constitutional ability to refuse to certify the vote. It's just the way the vice presidency is structured right now, he shouldn't. But the vice presidency shouldn't be structured the way it is. The vice president should be separate from the administration, and he should be much more an institution of the Senate that has a small amount of crossover with the administration. He should be elected separate from the president. See, it used to be that the first and second place for the presidency became president and vice president. I thought you just ran. I thought you ran for vice president. Uh, not yeah. I thought it was that you ran for vice, but I could be mistaken on that. Uh, we'd have to look that up. I don't know that for sure. I thought that the vice presidency was initially, that you would declare to run. I could be too, Stephen. But what I think I remember, and we should look this up, is that yeah, you would declare that you're running for the vice presidency, and then you would be elected to the vice presidency, if I remember correctly. We'll look that up. I have another theory too, and that is that freedom of speech should only apply to the spoken word. And freedom of the press should apply to everybody's right to publish whatever opinion they want, but only words. I don't think freedom of the press or freedom of speech should apply to any picture, any performance. It should only freedom of speech and freedom of the press should only apply to the spoken and written word. And freedom of the press does not mean that we have an institution known as the press. It means that all of us have the right to publish whatever written word we want. That's and I think censorship should be allowed outside of those parameters. I'm sorry, we should have the right to ban pornography, and I'm not a pornography uh, like I don't think pornography is like this great horrible sin or anything. I don't have a big problem with pictures of naked women. But I do believe governments, particularly local governments, should absolutely have every right to define pornography and to ban it uh, in any way that they choose to define it, as long as it doesn't infringe on the written and spoken word and the right of individuals to speak and write words. But all this bullshit about freedom of expression and artistic freedom, no, that's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. There is nothing uh, redeeming about the vast swaths of the images that swash around. Y'all remember Piss Christ? There was this art piece of art. I want to say it's back in the 80s. Some guy took a picture of Jesus and submerged it in a bottle of urine, and then took a picture of the picture of Jesus in the bottle jar of urine, and called it art. Uh, okay, P Hub in that case would make speech recitals parodies in the missionary position. You'd have to explain that to me, Lance Corporal Veteran. I didn't follow that. P Hub. I don't know what P Hub is. I'm trying to think. I'm sure it's going to be obvious when you explain it to me. In that case, would make speech recital parodies in the missionary position. Yeah, I'm not following. You'll have to explain that one. And I'm sure it's not a perfect system. I just think it's better than what we've got going on now, where people can say that anything. Pornhub. Okay, Pornhub. Thank you, Anarchy. Cornhub. Well, here's the thing. The spoken word and the written word are not as they don't bypass. Images hack our system. Images and performances can bypass reason, and they can engage much more easily our emotions and our and whatnot, and get us past our. I just think there would be stronger guardrails in place. You know what? If you've got a good idea, you can express that idea in the spoken or written word. We want good ideas. We want robust debate. We want stupid ideas to get rebutted, and we want good ideas to be advanced. But we don't want to be manipulated by imagery. Imagery is just too powerful for people to not be able to regulate it. Now, it should be the legislature and devolve down to the lowest possible level. I'm not 100% okay with I don't think the federal government should be able to do it. But certainly counties should be able to regulate pornography inside the borders of the county. And probably states too. But we can't go on like this. We can't go on in a society where any image is protected. Because how can you, and you can't really, by the way, child pornography. I would get rid of rap music. Well, yeah, I mean, I think a performance like that should be able to be regulated. The spoken word, maybe not. I don't know. That music is an interesting wrinkle there. 10 Tigers. There would need to be a debate around the music issue. I could see that going both ways. But there's not a reasonable person out there who would say that child pornography should be legal. But it is. There's ways to make child pornography legal. And they do it all the time. And it's very, very, very hard to argue against it from a purely objective legal standpoint. Right now it has to be an emotional, moral, subjective argument to argue against child pornography. And so it would be much, much, much better if we could just ban pornography, or if we get to define pornography, on a local level, then rather than having 9 weirdos in dresses up there telling us what is and isn't allowed, because you can get 9 weirdos in dresses to pretty much allow anything if you say it right. All right, this cigar died. All right, I'm done. Tech 9 is pretty good. Yeah. All right, I give up. What are our closing thoughts this evening, man? Yeah, my mouth is exhausted. I can't do another one. Not tonight. That was ridiculous. I'll get one of the humidified ones next time. My closing thought is us Tory keepers gotta do better. Got to get on get our heads out of our asses. My closing thought for everyone is it's time for everyone to awaken from the slumber and the matrix and embrace true freedom of true anarchy. I agree with C.S. Lewis that the older I get, the more I think anarchy is the correct course. Because no man who wants to be in charge of his fellow man can be trusted to be in charge of his fellow man. AR-15 is a very good Christmas present. I agree 100%, Jesse. And also a good Christmas present is bullets for said AR-15. Anyone heard anything about the Spear program lately? Has that moved forward? I should look that up. I haven't heard anything about it. I keep expecting that to quietly be killed off as they start realizing what a ridiculous boondoggle it is. My closing thoughts are I need to move south where it is warm. Landon, 100%. Everyone is all worried about global warming and how it's going to kill everyone. It is cold that kills more people every year than heat. You can withstand an impressive amount of heat. You can freeze to death. I'm sorry, you can die of exposure at 60 degrees. They're still in the field testing, last I heard from that Task and Purpose. You know what? Task and Purpose has a quality YouTube channel. That guy puts out good, thoughtful videos. They're not always like fascinating, but they're always well thought out. I'm really surprised. I mean, he's a smart young guy, but it's a topic. He talks about just what about the ozone layer? The ozone layer. Ah, yes, the ozone. When I was in school back in the 80s, the ozone was going to kill us all. That and acid rain. The depleted ozone and the acid rain were going to kill us all. We were all going to die. There was nothing you could do about it. As soon as we were done killing the whales, the acid rain was going to kill all of us, and there would be nothing left on Earth but cockroaches. It's possible the last 2 people on Earth would launch the nuclear weapons and wipe out everything but the cockroaches. And then, magically, without explanation, the ozone layer, the hole in the ozone layer healed itself. No one ever explained to me why there was a hole in the ozone at the South Pole anyway. Why, if it was all these chemicals that we were releasing, why the hole wouldn't be near where the chemicals were being released. How somehow all the chemicals got from North America. They didn't even go to the North Pole, mind you, which would have been the closer pole. They somehow all traveled to the South Pole and were wrecking the ozone layer at the South Pole. And then magically one day there was no more hole in the ozone layer. And suddenly it was global warming that was going to get us all. The sea levels were going to rise. We were all going to drown. It would be ocean from the peaks of the Appalachians, up to the ocean was going to come all the way up to the foothills of the Appalachians. California was going to fall off the edge of the country. Arizona was going to be beachfront property. Yeah, healed itself because I stopped talking about it. We were all going to die, and it was all going to happen by the year, like 2000. It was. I remember one time Ted Danson, if you remember that idiot. Ted Danson went in front of Congress and said, "We've only got 11 years left. In 11 years, it'll be too late." And literally 11 years later, he went back to Congress and said, "We've only got 11 years left. In 11 years, it'll be too late." Uh, it's just the environmentalists are so full of shit. They're just ridiculous patroons. They're so stupid. They've never gotten one thing right. Not since John. Look up John Malthus. Malthus. Some of you know who he is already. All this horseshit started with John Malthus, and it's been wrong. I think that was like the 1640s or something. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that. It was way back there. And as soon as John Malthus made this prediction that humanity is going to be wiped out because there's too many of us, and that's back when there was like less than a billion of us. And then as soon as he said that, someone invented the steel plow, and the agricultural revolution happened. And every step of the way, some new John Malthus comes around every generation and says, "You're all going to die. There's too many of you. You're evil, and there should be less of you." And the next thing you know, there's another billion people, and we're all still doing fine. Uh, Malthus is always wrong. Speaking of a billion, okay, Mr. Cooper, let's hear about this billion. Did you win a billion? Did you win the lottery? And there are still 30-year home loans there. I think there's starting to be 50-year home loans. Uh, I believe I have heard that the prices of houses has gone up so much that people are having to take out 50-year mortgages. There's a professor somewhere in one of those Northeast schools. This will be good. Professors at Northeast schools always come up with the best shit. We're waiting to hear the rest of Mr. Cooper's story. Why did Noah even bother building an ark when all he had to do was just pay more taxes to the government to fix the climate? Who says that the population of China is closer to 690 million? I have heard this, that China's population is in a far worse free fall than they admit, and that China is in massive demographic collapse. Yeah, that they've got about half the people they. I don't know. I didn't. I just saw the headline. I didn't read the article. I didn't follow up on it any more than that. But yeah, there is some speculation out there that China is full of shit and dead people, or no people, or far fewer people than they claim to. Think about that. So they claim that there's about 350 million people in America, and that's probably a little low. So if China really is down to 690 million people, it's less than half. I'm sorry, it's less than twice the population of America, with like a quarter of the. Did COVID get? Now, 10 Tigers, they've been, that one child policy. They were sterilizing their women, they were forcing abortions, they were doing everything in their power to try to make people not have kids. And who could have predicted that, children grow up into adults, and adults are the people that run your country for you. You can't have uh, a uh, a a shrinking population and have a dynamic, powerful, prosperous country. It's just not possible. Uh, Anywho, I just hit a brick wall, man. I'm sorry. I've been sick, and I'm just uh, exhausted, and I just hit a brick wall. So we are going to call an evening to this one. I appreciate all of you sticking around with us for so long. You are, of course, always far more interesting than I am, and I always have fun listening to what you guys are talking about and seeing the things that are on your mind. So we appreciate the hell out of you, and hopefully we will see you Saturday. Vulgar or Lance Corporal Veteran, if you're still here, yes. Children are, I believe, children are our future. Hopefully next time, Lance Corporal Veteran, between 9 and 10 is the best I can tell you, brother. We appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good evening. And Torah keepers, reform yourselves.